Well, thank God this is not a hair tutorial. Hello there. It's party season, in case you didn't notice. If you don't have a party season, it's completely fine. But today I'm here to share with you some of my, kind of long used tricks to make your makeup last as long as possible if you're going to a party, if you want to look great all night, if you want to just, do party stuff. I'm old. What do I know what a party is? Let's get to it. There's a couple points I want to touch. First of all, of course, is skin prep. Listen, if you are doing makeup for a party, you want to make sure that your skin is prepped well so the makeup lasts as long as possible. The combination of the stuff you use is very important, so you always want to reach for stuff you know works for you the best. At this very moment, my skin is like freshly washed. I don't have any skincare on, but if I were to put some skincare on, I would make sure to not over prep. You don't want to put too much on the face. You want to prime your face, or at least I do every time. So I usually go in with 2 primers because my T-zone can get very oily and very separated, and kind of the cheeks and the perimeter of my face is more dry. So to battle that and make sure my foundation lasts as long as possible, I'm gonna go in with 2 primers on my T-zone and kind of like in the middle of the face, and on my most porous areas, which are like these, I'm going to use the Rare Beauty Pore Diffusing Primer. This thing has been working really well for me recently, and it's exactly one of those like matte kind of blurring primers. It doesn't have a silicone-y feel to it, but it works really well for my skin type at least. I have more like a normal to combination skin, so I cannot really speak for any other skin type, but just make sure you're prepping for your particular skin type. So first let's do this. I just take about 1 pump and I just work it into the places where I know I'm gonna need it through the night. Now I'm going to reach for the other primer that I need to make my makeup last a little bit longer. So now there are 2 types of primer I would go for. Either I would go for something very simple like the NYX Honey You Me Up primer or the Catrice Hydrator primer, to something very basic that's going to keep the skin hydrated but doesn't have any special abilities. Or I would go for something like this one, which is the Hydro Gripping Primer from Trended Up, to take a little bit more, not just the hydration, but also like that sticky layer so that my foundation lasts a little bit better. I'm going to use this one just to show you. And I usually do like 2 to 3 pumps because I have a very big face. It might just happen that 1 is enough for your face. And I focus it mostly on the drier areas of my face and then just, go lightly over the rest. Since this is a sticky primer, I kind of want it to be sticky everywhere. When it comes to the actual foundation, you just want to pick something you're comfortable with. So you can go light coverage, you can go medium coverage, you can do whatever you want basically. But it's very important that you wear a foundation you know works well for you, and you also kind of match it with your skin prep. So now that I have a hydrating primer on and a pore diffusing primer on, I know I can take anything with like more glowy, natural, satiny finish and it's gonna be fine. I'm not gonna go for something super matte because I didn't put on anything super hydrating to balance that out. So now you just have to kind of pick a foundation. Listen, I want to give you some recommendations on the foundations. One that I've been really liking, that I think is like one of the best foundations no matter where you go at this moment, is the Maybelline Superstay 24-hour Skin Tint. This is amazing. It lasts on me really, really well. It does have like a more luminous finish, but you can powder it down. It doesn't show up too much. But most importantly, it makes your skin look very nice and natural and wears off really nicely. So it just kind of starts looking a little bit more and more like skin, if you know what I mean. It doesn't separate. It just looks really good. My skin just loves it. So this is definitely my #1 recommendation. Another one I would like to talk about, which is a little bit lower in coverage, is the Vicon Skin Perfector Flawless Foundation. This is one of my favorite foundations at the moment, and it also wears really, really beautifully. Another recommendation I would like to give you is the Fenty Beauty Stick Foundation. This is a great foundation if you don't want to go in with too much coverage. It is very light coverage, looks very natural, just kind of, unifies the skin. So if you don't want to go overboard, if you don't want to go too high coverage because you're not comfortable with it, you can definitely go with something like this. Otherwise, of course, you can go in with, anything you want, anything you're used to. As I said, I love the Maybelline Tint, so I'm just going to go in with this one. I know it fits my skin prep. I know it's going to look beautiful. Just, yeah, always pick something you know works for you. This is not the time to play heroes and try out new foundations. No. This is not the time. I'm just going to take 3 little drops and I'm going to blend it into the skin in as thin as possible layer. Another advice that I have is work in very thin layers. As you can tell, I completely skipped the area under my eyes because I want to put concealer there. I don't want the things to like layer on top of each other. I would rather make it a little bit more, you know, like point focused. So I did put the foundation on like the majority of my face. I left out my under eyes and I'm just going to apply the concealer and we're going to move on to some other tips. Next thing I want to talk about are again layers. You do want to work in very thin layers, but for things like blush and bronzer, I would recommend going with 2 layers, making it a cream one and a powder one, so that you get as much as you can out of your look. You know, it's gonna last longer, it's gonna look more even, it photographs a little bit better. So I always go in with like both powder and cream if I can, basically, if I want to be bothered. So I'm gonna take my bronze sticks from Colourpop and I'm gonna focus it mostly on like the perimeter of the face where I want the bronzer to be like the darkest. And for my blush, I'm gonna take the Nivea Cheeky Flush Cream Blush in the shade Picture Perfect Peach. This is a super pigmented cream blush, but I feel like it works really well if you work controlled with it. And I wanna go for something like this as my blush anyway. The trick with this is you have to take like a very tiny amount. Then it's nice to like work it on your hand. And then you go to the cheeks. Alright, the cream base is done, so now it's time to powder everything we want. If you don't wear powder, you don't have to worry about this. You probably have a very good routine that works for you, but I don't. I like powdering my face, and that's what I'm gonna do now. So, first, my under eyes. You probably know I love using my velour puff to set my under eyes. I find it most effective. You don't want to bake, you just want to take a tiny bit of powder and just set them. It's not a very budget-friendly option, but I really like using the Fenty Beauty blotting powder. For some reason, it just works so well for my under eyes. It's like a little bit lavender toned. I'm not sure if it has a flashback though, which is another note. Make sure it doesn't have a flashback in case you know you're going to be taking a flash photography, because you don't want to look like an idiot with white under eyes, you know what I mean. So I'm just going to take a little bit on my powder puff, then I'm gonna tap it off my hand, and then I'm gonna go in on that freshly blended under eye. And I just work it really well into like this triangle under my eye. Also the nose, because, you know, I wear glasses, so I want the nose to stay as flawless as it can for as long as it can. And you can like reblend the under eye before you set it if you don't feel like it's completely it. And there it is, that's the under eye set. Now, I like to use this powder in my T-zone as well. So, same procedure, like right here between my eyebrows and on my nose. And also here on my chin and above my lip. That way, the part of my face that is moving the most is like set the best, I would say, which is great. That means it's going to last longer. Now for the rest of my face, I wouldn't really have to set this, but I just don't like the feeling of like a tacky face. So I'm definitely going to set it, and I think I'm going to use probably this one, the Colourpop Pretty Fresh Powder. This is a great powder. It's not too dry. I don't like things to be too drying for me, so I will use this. Of course, if you want, you can go in with something like super matte, like the Laura Mercier setting powder, or something, you know, if you know it's going to help you and your makeup stay longer, then sure, go for it. Just like a light dusting of powder, I just like to know I'm not sticky, because if you overdo it with the powder, it's going to start separating. Once you start sweating, it's going to look really gross. So you want to make sure that your skin is still allowed to be skin, you know, even with all the makeup on. So now we're nice and set, we're looking pretty good. Let's finish off the face. If I'm doing this like 2-layer thing, I want to make sure that the things I'm layering are not too much on top of each other. So you can still see the bronzer, it's very much there, so I don't want to go in with anything too heavy, too pigmented. So I'm just going to take like a very, light bronzer that is not going to be looking too heavy or too dark, too pigmented. I'm going to take my Alamar Cosmetics Complexion Trio, and I'm going to take the middle bronzer right here to just kind of revive the bronzer a little bit, make it more even. For this, you want to go in with a very fluffy brush and really take just a tiny amount and just make it even. And I like looking bronzed, so I can go a little bit like, bigger circles, more wide, just a bit on the neck. Try not to go like below that contour, And now for my blush. I don't even have to go in with anything, I think, because this looks really pretty as it is. I'll just take the tiniest amount of the Vive Sunset Blush in the shade Pesca, because it's new. I haven't used it yet. And I just really want to try it. Oh, this is really pretty. All right, there we go. So now the complexion is like completely ready. We just need to highlight and we're done. Last thing I want to say about complexion though, make sure you have a way to touch up. Maybe you won't need it at all. It's perfectly fine. But in my experience, sometimes I do need a little bit of help through the night. And this is what usually helps. A bit of a powder foundation fixes everything. So the Maybelline Superstay powder foundation, my favorite powder foundation on this planet at the moment, together with a Fenty one. It just works really well. If you, mess up something, you can just like lightly tap it on and kind of fix the area. Like, I don't know, if you rub your nose or if your lipstick smudges a little bit, you can like remove it and then tap it over with the powder foundation and it's going to be like done. So this is a great like hack for me. Have this on you instead of a powder and you can just fix anything. Let's talk eyeshadow for a minute. You have to wear eyeshadow primer. You want those eyes to last, at least look half decent at the end of the night, you need to use eyeshadow primer. I'm sorry, you just have to. Either you can go in with something a little bit more hydrating, a little bit more gel-like. Those don't really work for me that well. If you have very oily eyelids, you can take something like this, the Sigma eyeshadow base primer. This is really good, like more dry, very pigmented, really good eye primer. Lasts really well. Or you can go in with something like this, which is the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Eye Primer. And it is more like a sticky, more see-through, but very reliable for me. So this is what I'm going to go in with right now. I don't have many affordable eyeshadow primers that I like at the moment. I do like the Trended Up gripping one. That one is actually really nice. But other than that, it's not that hot in the eyeshadow primer realm right now. Okay, you always want to make sure that you spread it everywhere evenly, thin layer. You don't want any gulpy mess, any like patches of eye primer. If you do your eyes first, which is completely possible as well, I just don't like doing that, then yeah, still make sure that you are blending out that primer well, you're spreading it out well, and that everything is where it should be. Sometimes I like to go over with my fingers to, touch for any weird patches. So there it is. Another great tip I have for you, plan a hat. If you want to do something sparkly, dramatic, beautiful, something over the top, always know what you're doing. Because you don't want to get stuck in like a big black mess and then not know what to do, and then redo it for like another 30 minutes. You don't want to do that. You definitely want to plan ahead, at least a little bit. So right now, I am kind of planning ahead. And I'm going to be doing like a variation on a look I want to do in a couple of days, actually. So I really didn't have time to try it out. So I'm trying it out with you right now. I'm going to do the eyeshadow look and then we can talk a little bit more about tips, I guess. All right. Not really it. This is not the kind of green I was looking for, but it's fine. We're just training here. There we go. I feel like Christmas is the time where you can combine way too much with more than enough. And this is what we got. So I got a little bit of that green. I would go maybe even darker. We have a wing, we have glitter, we have shimmer, we have everything. And I feel like it looks beautiful. Another thing I would definitely consider is going with waterproof or tubing mascara, because I feel like those last the best on me. Also, I would probably wear lashes with this, but it's completely optional. Just in case, I usually carry my lash case if I get too tired of them and I just want to rip them off. That happens a lot. Okay, what's next? A lip, of course. As I already mentioned, I want to go in with a burgundy lip. I actually on purpose bought this. This is the House Labs Atomic Shake Lacquer. And this is like a very shiny, full opacity lip gloss that's supposed to last forever and stay shiny. I've been actually testing it for like 2 days now. It arrived 2 days ago. And I'm just very like on the fence if I want to wear this or not. So I tried to make it like as customizable as possible to me so I actually can. So first thing I want to do is apply a lip liner. Listen, lip liner can seriously save your ass because the outline usually lasts forever. So if you do it well, then it's really easy to just keep applying the lipstick. I do have this Sephora lip liner in the shade Plum Red, which actually happens to be a very similar shade to this. It is slightly lighter, but I don't feel like it matters all that much. Really take your time and focus on lining that lip, because it truly makes a great difference if you line your lips well. I like to start with the top. So I do this little cross to define the cupid's bow. And then I try to do the edges. So if you're like your upper lip, you can kind of color it in a little. And then you can do the bottom. I feel like my bottom lip is asymmetrical, but every time I draw it, I'm like, it's not that asymmetrical, but maybe it is, I don't know. So I like to start at the middle. Make sure I have the middle somewhat well. And then I just try to connect it. And then shading it in a little bit. You can always just like, you know, like try to fix it a little if you want. And then I color it in again. And it doesn't matter that it's like really patchy. It is because, you know, mostly the color of the lip liner is one of those that are usually very patchy. But the outline will make it a lot easier to apply the lipstick. Now, if you like the shape, it's great. If you don't, you can always go in with like an edge of the pencil, because now it's probably like really dull. And then you can go in like with the edge and kind of sharpen anything you want. Way better. So now that I'm like semi-happy with the lips, it's not gonna be that much better. I'm gonna shake this, because this is how you're supposed to apply it actually. So you shake it for a bit, and then you apply a very thin layer. And this goes for like most liquid lipsticks and lipsticks like this. Okay, it's been a minute now. It does look a little bit patchy on camera, but I think it's because the light is so strong that it makes some of the parts of my lips like really uneven. But it does look really good. And I guarantee you this is unwearable without the lip liner. I've tried so many times. It is so patchy. It's really hard to get the dark color like an even opaque layer. Yeah, I'm still kind of learning how to use this, but this is the lip. And it's always, you know, clearly you should always have your lipstick with you. Even the lip liner, if you get sick of the lipstick or anything, you can always just put on the lip liner and a bit of gloss or something, because some lipsticks can be very drying. So it's always nice to have like an alternative, you know, if you kind of get sick of the lip you are having, especially if you're using like a liquid lipstick that really dries out your lips. I always used to carry around like a wipe and a lip balm so I can easily remove it and then put on something like a little bit more lightweight or shiny or a bit more nourishing. So that's also my tip, I guess. And now the last tip, which is very, very obvious, is use a good setting spray. Listen, I never used to think that it makes such a big difference, but if you have something like the All-Nighter, the Nivea setting spray, you know, those kinds of things that are like borderline hairspray stuff, you want that. As I said, Nivea, actually one of my favorite long-lasting ones. You don't want to apply too much because it's like really there. There we go. This is the face. Beautiful face of someone who's gonna party all night long. The last tip I have for you don't let anything like your makeup maintenance ruin your night, okay? Most importantly, have fun. If you want your makeup to last in the process, those are some tips that may help you, or maybe not. This may not work for everyone. I don't know. It works for me. Have a great time. Enjoy the holidays. Don't let anything ruin your party season. And because I do have this new setup that is kind of, it needs some work, honestly. I will be seeing you all after New Year's. And there will be no new videos until the end of this year because I just need a break, honestly. I have so much going on right now. I don't know what to do. And I just feel like I need to, like, reevaluate a little bit, come up with some new ideas, buy some new equipment, make a new setup, and just, So thank you very much for watching, consider subscribing, and if you want to see more videos where I talk about, I don't know, makeup, I guess, you can check out the playlist. See ya!